Next up, we've got text functions. Now, this is another set of functions that looks and feels almost identical between DAX and Excel. So those same left, mid, right functions, those same upper, lower, proper capitalization functions, same substitute, same search. So hopefully many of you are already pretty comfortable with these formulas. So let's quickly kind of breeze through these. Starting with length, returns the number of characters in a string. Simply point it to a column containing text and you're done. Concatenate joins two text strings into one. Note two and only two. This behaves very much like the and or statements that can only take in two logicals. When you write out concatenate as a full function, you're limited to just those two text inputs, which is kind of silly and obviously restrictive, especially after going through all the trouble of typing that full concatenate function. So just like you can use the double ampersand to replace an and statement and give you more flexibility with logical statements, you can use the single ampersand to replace concatenate and allow you to combine many more than two strings. So when you think about it that way, I don't know why anyone would ever use the traditional concatenate function, because it's inconvenient to write and it's extremely restrictive. So best practice, just use the ampersand if you need to concatenate strings. Next, we've got some of my favorites, left, mid, and right. These allow you to return a number of characters from either the start, the middle, or the end of a string. Pretty simple syntax here for left and right. You point to a text column and then indicate a number of characters. Note that that's an optional argument. If you don't put anything there, it will return 1. So 1 is the default number of characters. For mid, there's an extra argument. You point to the text. You say, I want to start in character position 4 or 5 or whatever position you want, and then extend or return a specified number of characters from there. Upper, lower, proper, all capitalization stuff. Upper is all uppercase, lower is all lowercase, proper is the first letter capitalized. Simple syntax, just point to a text column. Then substitute, this one's kind of fun. You can replace an instance of existing text with any new text that you choose within a string. So this one has a few more arguments here. You start by pointing to a text column. You indicate the old text, or the text that currently exists within that string. And then the new text is what you want to replace that with. And then you also have this fourth optional argument for instance number, where you can tell Power BI, okay, I want to substitute my underscores with a dash, but I want to skip the first one. In that case, you can specifically target only the second underscore, or only the third or fourth. So a lot of flexibility with that substitute function. And then last but not least, you've got search, which returns the position where a specified string or character is found. And by default, Power BI is going to read from left to right. So when you type this function, you're going to say, okay, I'm searching for this particular text string. That's the find text argument. And then within text is where you're looking for it. Generally, that's a column containing the original text values. And now those are the only two required arguments. So you may be wondering, okay, you're searching for certain characters or text within a string. But then if that's the end of the function, what is it going to return? And the result that the search function yields is a number, and that number indicates the position of the text if it finds it. So if, for instance, you said search for the word house within the text doghouse, that function would return a 4, since it found house starting in the fourth character of that larger string. Now you have two optional arguments as well. The start position, so you can indicate if you don't want to start at the very beginning of the string, you could, for instance, start 5 or 10 or 20 characters in. And then last but not least, you can indicate a value to return in cases where the characters or text that you're looking for isn't found. So let's jump back to our report and quickly try a couple of these out. All right, so in the report, head to your data view, as always, and let's go ahead and jump into our customer lookup table. Now, the first thing I want to demo is that concatenate function, and a great opportunity to do that is to replicate the full name, just like we created right here in the full name column using the query editing tools. this will be a good opportunity to show that we can do the exact same thing using a calculated column with DAX. So right click, you know the drill by now, new column, and let's name this one full name underscore CC for calculated column equals, and now remember the deal with concatenate. If I were to type out that full concatenate function, I would be limiting myself to only 2 inputs. And since I'm looking to concatenate or combine 3 fields here, the prefix, the first name, and the last name, concatenate is not an option. So I'm forced to use the ampersand, which is good news because I'd prefer to use it anyway. So all we're going to do is search for the first field we want, prefix, ampersand for concatenate. And now keep in mind, if I go ahead and just reference the first name right now, in fact, I'm going to do it as a demo, and then add another ampersand and reference the last name, and press enter. When I scroll over, it worked, did exactly what we asked it to do, but the problem is that all the names are just blended together. So we really need some spaces in there as well. So it's an easy fix. Jump back into our formula bar, and now we'll say, okay, prefix, and then before we go and add the first name, let's add a space. So open quote, space, another quote, and then another ampersand. We're going to do the same thing between first name and last name. So first name and a space. Whoops, sorry about that. And our last name. Press enter. And scrolling over. There you go. Full name CC matches with our original full name column. Another good example of 2 ways to do the same thing. Now I'm going to show you one more demo, and for this one we're going to go back to calendar. And what I'd like us to do here is come up with a way to return a short version of the month name. So sometimes people shorten or abbreviate the month name with just the first 3 characters. So this is a great way to use one of those text functions, in this case like left. So let's go ahead and try that. New column. I'm going to call it short month. And that's going to be as simple as left, because we want characters starting from the left of a string, and the text column that we're pointing to is the AW calendar lookup month name. And then comma to my second argument. Again, the default would be 1 character. In this case, we want 3. So type a 3, close the parenthesis, press enter, and there you go. We get Jan, Feb, March, June, Aug. Looks good. But now it turns out that our AdventureWorks client hates lowercase short months. It's his pet peeve. He just can't stand it. So he insists that these month abbreviations have to be all caps. So lucky for us, we've got an easy function to help us do that. That's the upper function, one of those great capitalization functions. So all we need to do here is essentially wrap this whole function that we just created that yields these lowercase, or in this case proper case, short months, just wraps them in an upper statement and capitalizes everything. So I'm going to insert my cursor right before the left. I'm going to type upper, open the parenthesis, leave the entire formula as my text reference because it yields a text value that I can then convert to uppercase, close the parenthesis, press enter, and voila. Now we've got all capitalized short months, and AdventureWorks is going to be very excited to see that. So there you have it. A couple quick demos of how to use text functions in calculated columns.